Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Marketplace Code. We're here with me again. It's David and your boy Michael. We'll be speaking about all the great, amazing things about Walmart Marketplace, Walmart.com, and how you can grow your business, whether you're a supplier, whether you're a seller, what matters to you, how can you grow on the platform. Today is a really fun topic. AI. Everyone's AI, and how can you optimize for agentic search, AEO, GEO? What does that even mean? Sparky, is that actually doing something? What about SEO? What about Rank Today? How do I handle all of these different topics? So we at Cellcore take a three-pronged approach, and we'll be diving into that today. So let's get right into it. What do you have to say, Mike? What's your initial thoughts here?
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting how fast everything with AI has grown. And I think it's really important to break it up into like, what does it mean in different parts of the business and then how to action on it, right? Because there's, as you said, there's so many different ways how AI is affecting the landscape, right? Whether Walmart's building AI tools into like Walmart advertising product to help you run ads. And then there's like on the back end of Seller Center to help you with you making listings. And then there's how, like you said, some of the most important things, how you show up on Walmart.com, how you show up externally, how you drive traffic. So there's a lot of parts to it. So I think it's really important to understand which parts are the most impactful and then how do you best adapt to it. And then just for now, it's such early phases. So it's just really getting an understanding of the landscape. And then, as you get more familiar with it, figuring out how to properly invest and making sure that you're ahead of the curve.
Most definitely. Fundamentals are still fundamentals. We gotta keep that top of mind, that before you start going off and worrying about agentic search and even on site through GEO, you gotta first focus on the fundamentals. And it makes sense, right? If you think about the long-term picture of Walmart's not trying to disrupt in the same way that a lot of companies are. Walmart's not trying to disrupt. They have a very core business that they want to maintain and keep healthy. They don't want it that suddenly when you go to their platform and you search for something using a long-winded question rather than a specific keyword, that it's going to suddenly change the whole algorithm and how everything displays. If somebody's searching for chocolate versus someone searching was like really good chocolate to put in an Easter egg, right? That's going to be a very different. It can't be a very different search, because obviously, Walmart has a massive store business that they need to maintain and continue, and it needs to be consistent with the same order volumes, and everything needs to be very, very similar. So I like to take a look at history and seeing what happened historically, and maybe that'll allude to potentially will happen again in the future. Now, although this is not a one-to-one comparison, take a look at the evolution of Walmart.com over the past, say, 5 years. Even prior to that, maybe then there could be a little bit more disruption, even, with merging of pickup and delivery alongside Marketplace. Those are maybe some bigger factors that existed. But even since then, look how far Walmart has grown. Walmart has grown so significantly in their .com, and the health of that business is paramount. You can't just throw a wrench in it and expect everything to just continue as normal. So just take a look at the evolution historically. Let's go back to item spec 3, when it was 3 and then it was 4 and then it's now 5. How did that evolution happen, right? You started off with just a mere 30 odd categories. Then it transitioned to about 77 categories. And then it went to product types now with over 6,600 different product types. And we know, for those of you who have listened to the podcast, or those of you who are aware of how things work on Walmart, product type is a barrier to entry, so to say. If you're not in the right product type, you can't rank for a certain keyword. But then, how are these items ranking for the keywords in the first place? How does that whole association happen? It's not like someone at Walmart was sitting there and saying, all right, this keyword belongs to this product type. There's millions of keywords that get searched. No, what does Walmart do? They would look at the keyword. They would see what is the mix of the items that are displaying over there, what product type best fits those items, and then create an algorithm based on that. So it was really a chicken and egg situation. And with that, we could take a little bit of learning into the future. So let's summarize what that was. They had a method that they had to update. They had to go from 70 categories to 6,600 categories. And to do so, they have to see what can we do to take a look at what exists today, not disrupt that, continue that for the marketplace of tomorrow. So that when someone comes in today to set up their product, they're not going through the flow that existed 2 or 3 years ago by a category level. They now have to go on by product type. And that is actually, like I'm saying, a barrier to entry for ranking for those keywords. So now let's understand again, it's about keeping things the same. It's about that if you were to search chocolate 2 years ago, the landscape is not so much different than if you were to search chocolate today. Because again, those staple items need to remain at the top. If suddenly a bunch of miscellaneous items are there, it would just cause such chaos. Merchants would be going crazy. Suppliers would be going crazy. There would just be general unrest because of this. So we have to think now, what's Walmart going to do now moving forward with the adaption and just the general growth of AI and on-site search, not necessarily through keywords, but rather through questions.
And Walmart's even like really mentioned multiple times in different settings that they want to start moving more towards conversational search, right? They want to start moving towards the search bar not being knives, like what do I want from, what do I need?
Right.
I'm making a party and I need this, right? And to your point, you have to fully restructure a catalog to be able to populate those type of results, but results for the items that make sense and that are going to be high converting and all that. So I think your point is really like Walmart's going to have to make this whole switch. Or if we learn from history and like how Walmart's done a similar switch, and it's not as large of a change, but it's still a very large change that they've done in the past, we could assume that there's going to be similar actions happening now, and
right.
How do we best prepare for that?
Yeah, and you can see it happening today in some capacity with Sparky, and it makes a lot more sense, right? How many times have you bought a product on any marketplace and it shows up as a tiny version of it? Like you didn't necessarily read the copy because that item was ranked well and it makes sense because it's priced well, and then until it shows up at your door, you're like, oh man, this is not what I need. And if we do go through conversational search, it just makes that process a little bit better, because then you're going to get exactly what you're looking for because it understands it a little bit more. So we could understand this kind of the direction that Walmart's taking over here. We could see Sparky already happening today. And then the piece that we haven't necessarily dived into so much is on the offsite piece, as that's a major piece. People searching through ChatGPT, through Gemini, through whatever different agentic models to find products. So let's get back to, with that in mind, that Walmart's not going to try and make this major change to how, the search results are and how items display. So how can you prepare today to optimize and be able to maintain, or gain that ability to rank in this conversational search? So to start, we begin with the one fundamental, which is, I know it's not generally what people want to hear, but you got to just continue doing what you're doing today. And what that means is to actually invest and put time into making sure that you are ranking organically for your top search terms. Because if you're doing well in SEO, like we just said, it should continue and maintain into that GEO search. What does that mean? This means that you want to make sure the very simple things. Obviously, your content scores are doing well. You want to make sure you're categorized correctly. But you also, this is actually where it gets a little bit more complicated than it was historically. You need to make sure your attributes are perfect. This is something that was actually a big driver of the product type shift, again, from that 77 categories to the 6,600 categories, product types, is fine-tuning attributes by product type. So what I mean by that is you'll see, let's say, additional features is a very common attribute, but the values for additional features vary drastically between product types. And it makes sense, obviously, right? If you're selling a toothbrush versus if you're selling a sofa, their additional attributes are going to be, removable cushions doesn't necessarily make sense for your toothbrush. Unless you have a very weird toothbrush, it just doesn't make any sense for you, right? And similarly, this has to apply to every single product. Almost every single product type has additional features as an attribute. So it used to be free-form attributes for a lot of this, but then when there just has to be more continuity, they had to make these drop-downs. And similarly here, where do they get those values from, the drop-downs? What do they look at? They looked at what the top items had, what were the top performers in the product type, what were their attributes on the drop-down, taking those, normalizing it, and then creating, okay, this is what makes sense. And what's the reason for that? this allows is actually, you'll hear Walmart speak about this, is that they don't want search. Obviously, search is very keyword driven, but they want when someone goes into search to not just look at the keywords in the copy, but also looking at the attributes. I think a super common example of this is if you were to look in, let's say, apparel, you search for a red shirt, you're going to see the red shirt variations are going to pop up first over, let's say, a green shirt, even if, let's say, the green shirt was a parent listing. How does Walmart know that? Because, again, they're looking at the color attribute. Now, that's a very simple explanation of it, but that is so broad and vast across. Think about that every single search is taking a look at some sort of attribute if there is more than just a single keyword, especially if you go to like more long tail keywords, every single piece becomes so much more important. And this is like a diet version, of what the conversational search is going to be like. Think of a long tail keyword as the beginning, the opening to that conversational search. So if you're able to master and really get those attributes down, something that people quickly overlook, it's like, oh yeah, I'll just fill in whatever I could, just give my strong content score, let me move on. No, actually think about, does it apply to your product? How does it apply to your product? Making sure that that's accurate. If it is a freeform fill it in correctly, because these things are all going to impact that next generation.
Could you explain a little bit like what a freeform fill is?
Yeah. So just the main difference would be like if it's a drop down or just like it's just open text. Yeah. If you just want to like just write in information there. Obviously, this is a very common theme with AI is you want to make sure, obviously, when people use search, they're making typos all day. But when you're having a catalog, and let's say especially with a broader catalog, you need consistency. This is actually one of the key pieces for optimizing for GEOs. You need consistency within your catalog. You don't want it to say different things for different products. It just creates, AI is going to be using, tries to use as much consistent truth as possible. So if they're looking at 3 different listings and all say something vastly different, it doesn't create this cohesive story of how this product is or what this brand is. It's giving you 3 different data points. It's like, wait, what's going on up here? And then they find the brand that maybe is a little bit more consistent across their product set, and they all share the same ideas and stories and that the goals. Again, it's just more sources of truth for that brand and that product, and it'll line it up. So it's very important to be consistent.
To bring it back a step, what do you think are we spoke about multiple different types of AI and ways you have to think of it. Maybe we could outline, here's the 3 abbreviations, what they stand for, and then how, like a 1 or 2 sentence liner for how to think about it, because I think that's really helpful, because even for me, there's so much going on and I'm like, this, that, what do I care about? So I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, no, for sure. So the basic is obviously SEO, which is not even AI, just search engine optimization. This is something that's been around for a while. Obviously I think Google was a big, I don't know, don't quote me on this. I think Google was probably where that got really big. I don't know. I wasn't around. I wasn't doing this back then. I just know Walmart. Don't ask me about other things. All right, let's talk about the 3 different search results, let's say. SEO, GEO, AEO, what do they mean? What do they stand for? Let's start simply with, the father of this all, SEO, search engine optimization. This is, what do you think, let's say Google, when you're searching for you type something into Google, which could be a question, it could be a specific keyword, and then it returns those results. And that's going to come from layering keywords into things. There's backlinks. There's all sorts of different ways to rank for this. It depends on the platform. Simply on Walmart, SEO is primarily going to be within your copy. That's going to be like the simplest way to optimize for SEO, inserting those keywords, but also all these other things we've been discussing. GEO is generative engine optimization. And that's the idea when you are conversing with an AI, not necessarily a question based, but just giving it a little bit of a longer piece, not necessarily a keyword, just a bit of a longer conversation. And where you're going to see this is within like AI chatbots. That's really common. You're going to see Conversational. Sparky is a great example for this. With Walmart, obviously, let's say Rufus on Amazon or any website you visit these days, and they're annoying little chatbots like, hey, like that's what the GEO is for. And then there's AEO, which is answer engine optimization. Now, what's that? That's for question based. It's like, what is the best blah, 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 blah for blah, 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 blah that I could use for blah, 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 right? Just like what is the best hairspray that I could use while traveling on vacation with high UVs? Like something like that. Just so I don't get, sunburned hair. I don't know, something like just a question that I could find on Walmart.com. You can keep on adding to this, and it'll just be like, all right, it's going to start targeting each of these, break down your question, and find what's the best way to answer those. So again, SEO we've covered quite extensively here. For GEO, now we started talking on it. It's about consistency. It's about being, again, the generative piece relies on truths. It relies on proofs. It relies on these consistent data points across a brand, and that's what helps it do well. And you'll see this with Sparky today. And if you even search for like your top products and you're like, hey, recommend me the top X product on Walmart, it's like, hey, why is my product not necessarily coming up? Because oftentimes there's not that consistency versus a smaller brand that maybe hasn't necessarily put in as much effort as showing up over there. Now, obviously, that's why maybe Sparky isn't, the search bar yet, because there still is going to be work to be done there. Because like we're saying, they're not trying to disrupt, but it is having used Sparky just from it's where it started to where it is today, we can see how much more it's advanced and improved to really better understand products. And the interesting point on this is that if you go to Walmart today and you search for a lot of I find this more with like bigger products, not necessarily every product, and you just click into the PDP, you'll see AI key features, something that was previously just your standard, like key features, long description. What happened over there? And also, it's interesting how they're laid out. So if let's say you have 5 bullet points on your listing, right? Your 5 key features in whatever structure you have it. If you look at the AI version of it, what they do is they consolidate it and make it super simple to read with the first 2 words bolded, and then it gives you a little bit of description on it. So it could be like, let's say you're selling a food. If you're like low fat, high energy as like your start of your bullet, and then you rant about it, they'll be like fat free, high energy. Like they just want to keep it very concise, like very quick 2 words for a number of reasons, but also it just helps again with that data that feeding back to their own search results, which again, it keeps that simplicity over there, as well as it makes it a lot more user readable for, let's say mobile users or how much shopping is happening through either mobile or through app. You need that short copy. You need us as a boom, 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 boom. It just gives you that quick bite of what this product is instead of having to read this whole long text that obviously you love to rant about how beautiful your products are, but people just want something short and straight to the point. And it also, again, helps feed that GEO piece.
Something I've seen with Sparky is like a lot of brands are getting very concerned if their items aren't showing up in Sparky. And I think that there's really 2 things to keep in mind. When you're thinking about Sparky, it's very early for Walmart as well. So because your item isn't showing up there, it's not necessarily a cause for concern. You might be doing a lot of the things well, but it's just taking time for their AI to learn. And it's taking time for their AI to really process which items to promote, how to do it, and all that. So you want to make sure you're aware of it and you're starting to optimize towards it. But like if your item isn't showing up there, don't panic, because number one, it could be you're not doing the right things, which is a possibility. And if that's the case, you work on that. To David's point, you have to work on consistency of your content. You have to work on thinking about how is it judging your items and making sure you're infusing that into your listings. But also know that it's taking time for Sparky to actually learn and really absorb the right information and start promoting the right items. And, this is just a prediction, but I think that Sparky is going to be the frame that they use to actually start implementing it throughout site in a larger way, eventually the search bar. So it's really about, if you think about, everything today is like, how do you optimize for the search bar? So the way you do that for what the search bar is going to be, in our opinion, is really optimizing for Sparky.
Most definitely. Most of that seems to definitely be the trajectory. And then one more key piece for Sparky optimization is just what the product is for. And I think this small word for is crazy. It's crazy how strong for is, because people will just go with a standard keyword, which is just 2 words. Let's say here, like, people will typically go for just a simple keyword. Let's say woman's shirt, but rather like shirt for a woman. That's a very, like, again, super simple example. But it just unlocks so much, because especially when people are asking, they're always asking for. It's just like, I need this for, right? So that for piece, the AI is always gonna be looking, what is this for? what is this product and who is it for? What is it for? And you'll see a lot in any category. You'll see blender for kitchen, like even something like that. And it's funny because a lot of top keywords on Walmart have for in it. So it's already, if you already know your keyword research, you'll already have this information. But like kitchen blender versus blender for kitchen, two very big keywords, but the for is going to help you a little bit more in that long run. And you can have both if you know how to, layer your title properly. But there's just a strong piece about it. And again, it's going to be about that simplicity within your copy. That fluff is just going to create too much ambiguity. And it's funny because people use AI for copy and it's just all fluff, and then the AI has to reduce the fluff. It's kind of funny, just a general like AI anecdote. I feel like so much these days is AI speaking to each other on both sides. How many of you guys, you need to reach out to someone, you send them a whole AI email, and then they get the email, and they just put in AI, then they send you a response, like just kind of cut it. Everyone's just send prompts to each other. I feel like
it's
just be so much easier to work with people, but it's great. But that's essentially what you're doing here is you create this AI listing, then you ask AI to find you the product. It's just all nonsense happening in the background. It's just a funny concept. But if you have that consistency, and I think like a very simple concept of this is variations, right? Making sure that your naming is consistent. How many times do you have like brown versus, I don't know, light brown, or just brown with the typo, or capital B, lowercase b, like just simple little things. And like you call this one camo and you call this one green. It's like keep consistency across your listings. That I would say is going to be one of the simplest things that you could do today, just to make sure that you are set for that GEO. And again, the last part we'll speak about after all this is measurement. But that's like just going to be a very simple way just to see like I made these changes. How can I now go ahead and measure and see how that how has that actually impacted my listings? How am I now showing up better? Am I now not?
Oh, I'm just listening. I'm learning.
He's listening. Oh, I feel like I'm talking this whole thing over here. All right, now let's talk about the last one. Let's talk about that answer engine optimization, this AEO piece. Let's first understand what it is. I'll use the simplest example here. Let's stick to ChatGPT. It's going to be asking it a question about, it's going to be typically an offsite, not necessarily like this on-site piece. It's going to be like, how do I optimize? You ask it, what is a good product for X, Y, and Z, right? Again, that's what we've been talking about on Walmart.com. What is ChatGPT going to show you? They might show you the top 5. Let's say you say what are the top 5. What drives what ChatGPT is going to respond to? So the best part, one of my favorite things about ChatGPT is it's not like Google, where like not hating on Gemini right now. It's not like the Google where you ask it what determined why you said this. Like it's just search results, just a bunch of pages. Versus with AI, you can have that conversation. You can be like, why did you tell me these 5, and why did you rank 1 as 1 and 3 as 3? And obviously, if you're using the higher end models, they'll give you more information over there, but they're actually telling you and giving you insights into their. Now, obviously, they're not checking their algorithm. They're just seeing what other people wrote about their algorithm, but they do give you some good information over there.
I think one of the biggest things is like you're constantly getting closer and closer to what you need in your answer. So like if you think about Walmart search or even Amazon search or Google search, you search one thing and the results are crap. So you're like, okay, this is not working out. So you have to fully restart your search. Your second search is not taking any learnings from what was good about your first search. And then it's like, okay, that didn't work. So let me start getting more and more and more targeted. But it's really not. It really isn't taking any of the learnings beforehand, as opposed to ChatGPT. It's like, okay, this part wasn't good, but let me keep that part, and then it keeps honing down.
And it learns you
exactly. So for like product selection, it's like, okay, I wanted a shirt and I wanted a pink shirt, but like I didn't like this part about it. So it's like, okay, here's more results. And I think it'll just allow. I think if you think about how it's going to affect the whole shopping behavior, it'll allow for a much more extended assortment, because it used to be if your item was too niche or if your item was too specific, it would be really hard to get found because people wouldn't think to search for that.
Right.
Like you're not going to search
for this really long keyword.
Exactly. So they're not going to search for that, even if that's what they're looking for. Right. And it's going to be hard to get that in front of them, because the thing that's going to show up is the more general thing, right? Like if you wanted a certain type of, if you wanted a certain type of shirt and you wanted black buttons on it, you just, and whatever it is, like you're just not going to think to search that. So you search shirt and then you see a bunch of details, but if it's not applicable to you, then you're not going to end up purchasing it now. So I think extended assortment is going to become larger and larger and larger, and it's going to be about how to start populating those items and making sure that they kind of show on the top. And that's why Marketplace is going to be really key, because Marketplace allows you to have that extended assortment and lean into that, where you could really start really being more, give the customers what they're really looking for. Because if they're doing that really targeted search, they're going to want to see results that come up that actually match that, because the AI might be really good. It might know exactly what you're looking for. But if you don't have the items to match that demand, then like it's going to ruin the experience, because you're going to still populate some items, and it's just not going to be as high converting or applicable items. And then people lose trust with the experience, and as much, they just don't have as much of an efficient shopping experience.
Most definitely. It's a great takeaway. And just thinking about also the direction of how much shopping is happening through AI and the necessity, again, obviously stick to fundamentals today and think about the future and consider, but obviously it's changing rapidly. But
in every category, it's so crazy. I was at dinner on Friday with a couple lawyers and like financial people, like investors, and they're like, one of them had like, he's a newer guy in the industry, but he had like 3 analysts, and he said he fired all his analysts because he just started using Claude for his analyst work, and it was like way better. He's like, I was at follow up with my analyst for the notes, and then the notes are not so accurate, and then afterwards they have to do this whole model, and it's like after that, he's like, I just, half these people's time, all they spend is making like these presentation, and he's like, he created a Claude model that just will automatically plug into his PowerPoint and just take the Excel sheet, update everything. He sees it's not working, he updates it. So I think it's like, obviously there's rapid change everywhere, and it's really about, it's going to affect e-commerce in a really big way. It's just about, and if you wait till it fully happens, it's going to be really hard to learn about it. But if you do too much now, it's also not worth it, because it's changing so quickly.
Right.
So it's
you don't even know what's going to happen.
You don't know what's going to happen. So it's, how do you balance where there's the most impact? How do you still care about, the current infrastructure? Because especially the larger the companies, the harder for them to make massive shifts. And Walmart's good at shifting and always, and that's why they've been able to be the leaders for so long. Right. But it's still, you have to be cautious about switch. Like you said, some of these items, they're big items. They have a lot of inventory of. They can't just all of a sudden not be searchable and not be found. So I think it's going to affect in a big way. So it's like, at this stage, if you're a supplier seller, how do you learn, know what's going to come and start preparing for it? Not going to be fully right, but at least you'll be educated on it. And as changes start coming, you could be well equipped for it.
100%. I mean, again, Walmart is at the cutting edge of this. Just their willingness to lead in with OpenAI and, and have that partnership and driving that. I mean,
now there's a big Google partnership as well,
for sure. So. Exactly. And if you look at some data, I don't quote me on the specifics here, but I know there's some data that's been put out there of Walmart dominating about over a third of all referral traffic to Walmart.com.
It's like 34% or 35% of all
ChatGPT is through ChatGPT. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. That's when I ran the numbers, it came out to maybe be about like 1% of total e-com sales in like
total e-com searches. Yeah.
Total e-com, no, I think sales.
Well, it's hard to know exactly how much of that. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know what referral traffic actually translates to sales, but it's still going to be a really strong amount. That's
whatever it is, it's crazy, and that's within like a short period of time. And it's only that was even a number that came out right before I think they even announced a partnership.
Yeah, so that's crazy. So it's just going to keep growing.
Yeah, and
now I just saw you could actually shop directly within ChatGPT.
Yeah,
like now it's in initial betas right now.
Yeah, I think Etsy was first, right?
Yeah, so that's crazy.
I'm excited for that. I'm super excited for that, because it just lets me be a little bit lazier, But obviously now I have to work on actually helping people get there. So let's just knock out 2 more things over here. Let's say, how can you optimize for AEO? So what is ChatGPT looking at? So obviously you could ask it, but very simply put, they're not just looking at Walmart.com, right? Let's say GEO. They're just going to be looking at, what's on site, the data that exists over there, and figuring it out. Versus this is going to look at the broader picture, right? Sparky's not looking at a blog post about your brand. They're looking at, here's what you put into your listing. ChatGPT is looking at, who is this brand? They don't want to refer crap, because that's just going to look bad on them. They need to build that trust with that customer. So they're going to look at simple things, obviously, on the on-site. They're going to look at, your copy. They're going to look at your reviews, your ship speed, your price compared to your competitors. But they're also going to look at, hey, do you have any blog posts about your product? And this is why you're still going to see some top brands over there, and why it's still important, right? Blog posts, right? You've heard this a million times for SEO. Again, it's not a whole brand new thing. It's just the same, just a little bit different. So obviously, if you're able to build that bigger brand presence and have more views and understanding of your brand broader on the internet as a whole, it will impact your ability to search and result in an AEO. And some other pieces are just, again, the using the, I would say not necessarily the title in this case, but more we found like description and key features is a place where we see the ability to really speak a little bit more to the customer. And let's say like we spoke about the for keyword, it becomes ever more so important because in title you're limited. You have, let's say 90 to 120 characters. The description key features, like go to town over there, right? Go really, again, don't be ambiguous, don't be too much fluff, but give it this exact details. Make sure that you're very refined and just understanding, you know, your product, you know what people are searching for. You know, when someone's searching for sunscreen, you need to make sure the SPF is very clear. You need to make sure you have the right hair type for hairspray. You need to make sure you have the right lip shade, the shade for like your lips. Obviously, we're sticking to a very simple category over here, but again, this applies in every single way to every single product. You want to make sure that obviously stay within the legal component, but if you're selling something that's BPA free, make sure it's very clearly BPA free. If you're selling something that has a specific certification, indicated. If it's meant for a certain demographic, indicated in your description and key features. It'll just help you rank better because, yeah, think about it. Even if someone's not necessarily searching for that specific piece, even if someone's putting that in their question to ChatGPT, ChatGPT has so much history on all its users, right? It knows that you are knows your background. It has all that data on you just based on your other questions, and it's going to use that to influence. It's going to put that into its search. So if you have, hey, this is actually perfect for this person because this person likes more premium products, and we also know that they're based here, and let's say the shipping speed for this. Obviously, this is only going to continue to evolve and get better with time. That's just some key ways for how to optimize for AEO. Let's wrap this up with one of my favorite parts of this is how do you actually measure success, right? There's, obviously we have Cellcore, a shameless plug over here. We have done incredible work when it comes to tracking organic ranked and sponsored ranked on site, share of voice. There's, other tools as well, that exist. But how do you actually see my AEO and my GEO results? Now, simply, there's not necessarily a data point that's going to just track. There's not a single keyword that's going to be the same within Gen AI or within GEO or AEO. It's not the same question. Everyone has that personalized piece to it. So it's not as simple. But my suggestion for Sparky, it's not, let's say, obviously if you're signed out, it'd be easier. Just go to Walmart, give it a very what is the best, and then put in your main keyword there and just see if your product's showing up. Test that every few weeks as you make optimizations. For AEO, go into a temporary chat, right? You don't want it to have all that personalized data. If all day you talk about your brand, it knows that you have an affinity and this connection towards your brand. So obviously they're going to show your brand when you're searching for it, or hopefully they do, But if you are going into your temporary chat, it's like an incognito browser, it's just going to start from scratch. And ask it the same query and ask it a few times. Ask it every week, ask it every day as you make your optimizations. Ask it, why is my product not showing up over here? Put in the Walmart link and I'll be like, oh, it's actually because of X, Y, and Z. How could you optimize? Like that's one of my favorite parts about the AI is you can just ask it and it'll give you that information. Obviously, again, use the better models to get even more information, but it'll give you tips because it's constantly evolving. Your listings are evolving, Walmart's evolving, everything is just continuing to change. So make sure to stay cutting edge, get ahead of it while still focusing on the fundamentals today.
Yeah, thank you for everybody for tuning in. I'm excited about all the changes that are coming here. I know it seems like a lot, but as things progress and as we actually start seeing meaningful impact to search results and to how Walmart operates, we'll continue to keep informed so you understand where the main areas to keep the focus on so you don't get too distracted with everything that's going on. So we'll keep everybody posted on that, and as we learn, we'll learn together. And yeah,
this might all be obsolete in like 2 weeks. We have no idea. So make sure to listen to this now. Check the timestamp when you're listening to this and make sure if we have a new episode, you're checking that one out as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.